Uh, just caught me off guard, yeah. They didn't start until I lit the lantern, yeah. I was having a conversation with a lady at work. Her grown kids are living in the basement. She said that the electric bill went up to like $400. I was like, girl, you need to get them some some oil lamps, yeah. I like oil lamps a lot. But whenever I first started using this, I wasn't letting the soot burn off of it first. And so there was like soot on my glass. And so I took a towel and got that off of it, let it burn off until the smoke was gone, and then put it on there. So there's no soot on my glass. I did it right. Yeah. It's my day off. I'm still drinking coffee. Just feel really groggy. I don't usually do anything on my first day off except for piddle, right? Like I just piddle around, whatever. And I actually don't, it's like a weird thing, right? Like when people have days off, they immediately go from like, you've been doing something for your job all week, right? And trying to squeeze in like whatever you need to get done in the in between moments of that. And so I think people are naturally inclined whenever they have a day off, or it's just through conditioning that they're like, okay, well, I'm off from my job now, and now I've got to take care of everything in the house. That means I've got to scrub my house, I've got to blah, 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 do laundry, etc. I don't. I don't. I stopped doing that. My first day off, I don't do anything, right? Nothing. Uh, Except for piddle around the house. What is piddle? I could nap at some time, right? Like, just whatever tickles my fancy. It's a lazy, chill day. And because I'll probably nap and whatnot, I'll sleep, mess up my sleep schedule. I'll get up, stay up with the sunshine tomorrow. And because I work a strange schedule, like I'll sleep a little bit just to make sure that I can stay up between, at least the hours of like 7 p.m. to like 9 a.m., right? And then the day that I go back to work, because I'm well rested, uh, I will get up and I will thoroughly clean my house. I will do my laundry, mop my floors, yada, 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 right? On the day that I'm going back to work. Because you have to have some time. Time management it's important. Like the order of things that you do, the way you do it, like life really is about like mixing and rearranging, right? To find like a flow that works for you. So tomorrow, what I'll probably do is like all of my food prep. Um, I have a bag of organic potatoes that I bought today. Anybody who buys like organic produce knows that those they sprout before they can sell them, right? Like I got that. It's usually like $6.99 bag for like $2.99 because they sprout so fast. Um, and so I'll just go through and um, par par prepare them and then put them in a Ziploc bag, and then like through the week, like before I go to work, I can pop them in the oven or the air fryer, whatever, and you know, finish them so that they're not like gross, like overly cooked or whatever. Um, but yeah, I'll go through and food prep. I think I'm gonna make, or I don't think I'm gonna make, I am going to make. I bought a head of Napa cabbage. That's why I like the smaller store too, is because the produce is just better. It is. The meat is definitely better. I will never buy meat from Walmart. I noticed something strange on the meat packaging today. Now they're saying like 100% beef. Like, is there a reason that something labeled ground beef wouldn't be 100% ground beef already? You know? I usually buy like organic grass fed. Yeah. Uh, but I got ground sirloin this time. But I'm going to make, and ground chicken from a distributor here in North Georgia that I know is trustworthy, right? Like I know how they operate, how their facilities are run, like etc. Like so, like I, their stuff is more expensive, but that's who I go with. But ground chicken, and I'm going to make dumplings. So I got some like plant-based wonton wrappers or whatever. So I'm gonna pre-make dumplings and put those. So food prep tomorrow. And I enjoy cooking, so it's not like I consider that like work, right? So just going to, when you live by yourself, it takes a while, like to figure out how to um, divvy up your things. I usually end up eating the same thing, like for multiple days. It doesn't bother me because it's strange how food has been turned into like an activity, right? Food is medicine. It should be medicine, right? It's the things that you've been taught to enjoy here seem strange, right? Like, because if you turn something into like a recreational activity, then it's very easy to do it in excess or more than necessary because that's where you're deriving your joy from, right? I know that's a touchy topic for a lot of people. It's just growing up, like, and understanding, like, the unhealthy culture around like the choices and what you're exposed to, right? And then knowing the contrast of that and understanding that it should be used as a medicine, and that all of the things that you consume that are natural, even spices, etc., have medicinal properties in them. So it's very important to be conscious, right? Because I want to throw some brain food out here for you. When people eat, and trust me, I am no saint. Listen, I drink Coffee Mate creamer. I will never give it up. Okay, I tried the natural thing. Blah blah blah. I like my Coffee Mate. I know it is banned in Europe, right? For whatever reason, but it is so good. I get it, right? Like, it's how I like my coffee. You know, I don't put sugar in my coffee. I don't anything, but I want my Coffee Mate in my coffee. Okay, like I am willing to die on the Coffee Mate hill. Okay, I am. All right, but that is a conscious choice that I make. I understand, right, that these things in it are not good for me, and I am choosing to consume it. Right. There are a lot of people who are just ignorant to uh, what they're doing, what they're putting in their bodies. Okay, so Coffee Mate, conscious choice. I know. Okay, this is not a conversation of like belittlement. It's not that. Okay, it's just I'm gonna state some things, right? Sharing knowledge. Okay, so my Coffee Mate is probably like my biggest, like terrible mixture. But I have tried the natural whatever. I just don't like it. I consume a lot of coffee, so I like what I like. Okay. Um, with all of the extra ingredients and stuff that are in foods, right? Because it's a whole unnatural process, right? It is unnatural to consume things that can last like forever based on the ingredients and not the way that it is preserved per se, right? Like, sure, cans will last forever because there's no air in it, and that is fine, right? Like how uh, like I can things, right? Like spices, last a really long time whenever you dehydrate them and remove the water. That is fine. But things like Oreos, chips, there are healthy chips, like quinoa chips. That's usually what I buy if I'm going to eat like a chip. Uh, but think about the chemistry behind that, and no one thinks about the chemistry behind it, right? When you eat an Oreo and a chip, if you were to had to write out every single ingredient, unnatural, natural, whatever, the whole ingredient list, if you wrote that out and then took the ingredients from that Dorito bag or whatever, wrote that out underneath it, took those ingredients from that soda, wrote that out underneath it, right? And had a chemist analyze what reactions each of those create, I don't know if you would be consuming it, right? That's a lot of chemistry, a lot of bad chemistry, yeah. But no one gives thought to that whenever they're going in and picking things out, right? And certain spices, certain vegetables have certain medicinal properties, right? Like, that's what holistic medicine is based on. It is, right? That's why cayenne pepper is good for your heart. Like, seeds are good for this, or whatever is good for that, right? And so you take that chemistry and put that together, right? And have a chemist look over that and see the reactions of, XYZ. And that's the food science that needs to be done. It's not, how could we make everything fake? And don't get me wrong, when it comes to like cheese sauces for say, sometimes I like broccoli and cheese. I don't want to put I don't want to use milk, or I don't drink milk, or like cream or whatever in my broccoli and cheese. So there is a vegan brand, because I was vegan for a long time. Daiya makes, Daiya, I don't know how to pronounce it. Uh, but the ingredients on that for a cheese sauce are healthy, right? It's all healthy ingredients. It's all plant-based compared to anything that you're going to find like in a jar, right? Even the ones that say real cheese, right? No, there's a bunch of terrible things in that. So I always buy the Daiya, and it tastes just as good. It's actually, I prefer it. Okay, I just prefer it. So that's what I use for that, right? But I had to study, right? Of all the things that people can use their time for, right? Of all the things that people could learn and use their time for, seeing the world as it is and what they're doing and what they're talking about and what they're discussing, uh, it's noise. It's noise, right? It's noise. You could grow your own herbs or whatever, right? And speaking of, I need to get my hydroponic up and going. Yeah. But everyone always seems to have a complaint or a problem, and they never look for the solution. They or they don't believe in the solution, right? Or they believe that it's much more complicated than it actually is. I'm not sure when what takes care of you became obsolete from the equation of anything, right? As far as your health and healing. I'm not sure when understanding plants' properties and how they can help you heal became woo-woo witch stuff, and pharmaceuticals with ungodly chemistry became uh, the only whatever, right? I don't understand the, I don't know why that happened, how that happened, yeah? Or I do know why and how that happened, yeah? But this isn't a conversation for that, yeah? I did an experiment with chickpeas. I might replicate it and alter some of the, I had an issue with the transition from the climate per se. But I did an experiment, and I wanted to see if you could grow, what could you grow if it became very, very cold, right? Uh, and so I put a bunch of chickpeas in a bowl, in a Tupperware, and put it in the fridge to see if they would sprout. Every single one of them sprouted. Every single one of them, right? So they will sprout, in cold conditions. Uh, but I like took them out. I think there wasn't like it'd be better if I had like a controlled degree to like over the course of a day, like move it X amount of degrees and whatnot to see if, but I mean, of all the things people could do with their time, right? No one's looking for like solutions to anything. Like, no one's curious about anything, right? They're just interested in arguing and perpetuating problems. It makes no sense. Like, to each their own, right? Did you know moth's eyes glow? I didn't know that until just now. The Mothman. Are you the Mothman? He's just sitting here by my coffee cup. I think a lot of people don't get outside of their like bubble, right? Like if you grow up in a really small like town where everyone does the same thing the same way for generations, uh, things become normalized, right? Things like sweet tea become normalized, right? Where you're dumping a bunch of sugar into, and they have no idea that this is. A lot of them, they probably don't, right? Like know that that is the same as an English tea, right? It is a black tea in a little packet, right? You put honey in that, and that's healthy, but a bunch of bags and then boiling it, which ruins the properties of the tea, and then dumping a bunch of sugar in it, right? And that's a staple, right? Not good. But I guess that kind of like springboards off of the meme, the megachurch meme, right? It does. Well, I guess the moth finally found its like comfortable place for the light, yeah. I don't know if you can like see. Just chilling. This isn't a food shaming like video. This is uh, what I've learned, yeah, an informational video because getting out of such a confined bubble really can expand your awareness and knowledge, right? But you've got to consciously put yourself in environments that make that knowledge available, or at least um, inspire your mind to be like, well, here's all of these things, right? What are they, right? So get online, look up, what's what, and of all the information available, right? Like, what are people doing with the information is the question. That's why I'm very against, like, garbage culture, because the fruits of the tree, yeah, you are going to you're gonna sow the seeds that you reap, right? And there's a lot of bad gardeners out here. A lot. Sowing all of the wrong seeds. On purpose, too. What do you plan to harvest from that? Right? People have this, like, misconception about AI. First off, I've already made it very clear you people are not doing anything that has ever been done before, right? In technology, knowledge, etc. But I beg the question of, after dumbing down and after chemicalizing a whole generation after generation after generation, you want them, you're going to harvest their information. You want them to input. And the crazy thing is, this comes from just a few who created the guideline, right, of what's knowledge and what's not. And now you want to harvest collectively from that. Uh, what are you hoping to find, right? Like, what are you hoping is produced out of that, right? Like I have said, you cannot poison the well and then expect clean water out of it. Like, I understand people need things to do with their time, and I understand that this was what people chose to do with their time, right? But there comes a time when you need to realize that that's not the way to go. It's not proper. It's not productive, right? Whatever is not good for you or good for the individual is not good for the whole. I really wish that the people who make such decisions would understand this. Yeah. Whatever you deem is not good for you is not good for the whole. Okay? In the long run. Should you want to put yourself in a position where you make the decisions and you are the whatever, right? Creating the strategy. It's a terrible strategy. It will not produce anything good. Like I said, you are not a good gardener. It is not a good garden. It is not a good tree. It is not, nothing good is coming from this. From this profit over whatever, right? Like it is the the rope. Like eventually, okay? Eventually, right? And yeah. And honestly, I just really think that it's from your conscious memory, right? Or through the generations that you're aware of, right? Because people have a lifespan, right? Of through memory of their consciousness, basically from whatever age that they become aware whenever they're younger until the day that they supposedly die, right? So when you're looking at that group of collective consciousness, for that spirit, that period of time, right? With your grandparents, your mothers, your children, your whatever, right? When you're looking at just that little window, uh, it's very easy to say, oh, well, this and this isn't true because I've never seen it and it's never going to happen, right? Or we don't have to hold ourselves like accountable for X, Y, and Z through this generation of consciousness, right? And then it's not going to matter because I'm not going to be here for the fallout of X, Y, Z, right? That is the biggest misconception. That is what drives and what is deceiving those who insist on such behaviors. That is what is deceiving you into believing that it is okay, right? Like there will not be a day of a reckoning, like there will not be or that you will not suffer at the results of what you've done, like you're going to die and you're just, I don't know, it isn't gonna be relevant to you, right? That's not true. Okay, it's not true. Right, we need to get this first. We need to get the consciousness and the death thing sorted out amongst humanity, because they are very, very unaware, and that's why people do most of what they do, right? Yeah. Just like that, if they can't see it, then it doesn't exist. Yeah, that's not true, right? It's not true. Right now, what you would consider empty space are things in the space. It's always things in the space, right? They call it, it's called drunkenness for a reason, yeah. Because when you're drunk, you don't care. You're just doing whatever you want and having a good old time, right? And that's humanity in a nutshell. All of it. Just doing whatever you want, no inhibition at all. Like, it's just a fun time, yeah. It's the wrong kind of fun time. Like, it's crazy to me that, like, if you cannot conceive or perceive, like, your idea of some utopia or heaven, right, then it isn't really real to you. Like, if we're being honest, it isn't even real to you. Because you don't give thought to it, it's just something that you heard, right? It's just something that you heard. It's just something that generations repeat to each other. But they never, like, really give thought into, like, the mechanics of how would that work, right? Because everybody's focused on arguing and everyone's focused on someone doing the work for them. That's where humanity went wrong, having someone else do the work for them. Another big deception. Creator, yes. The best that anyone can do, the best that I can do, is my own work and share that, right? Based on my experiences, right? That's the best that anyone can do for you, for another. So if a person doesn't do the work, then they can't do anything for you. So we got a bunch of people out here who can't do anything for anyone. Yeah. Nothing that matters in the bigger picture, right? for these so-called things that they believe, these things that they want, right? We can want a lot of things. But what are we doing the work for? It's a very noisy world. That's why I always start my videos like lighting my incense. It's quiet. It's time to like shift out of chaos. I'm in my space. That's how I prefer my space, right? Because your thoughts should be poured into helpful and useful and growth. They should not be poured into the frivolous, argumentative, destructive, self-destructive, because whatever is destructive outwardly is destructive inwardly, right? It is. Well, destruction inwardly is what creates the destruction outwardly. That's why there's like a lot of projection going on, right? It's why conversations are gossipy and circular but non evolved, right? Like the topics that I touched on this morning, that's not really gossipy, right? Like, not from the perspective that I'm viewing it, right? But you take the average whoever, right? Their thoughts are completely different. Conversations completely different. And that's how and where the brain process matters, and that's where vibration differs. That's where it's just a stark contrast. You have to be able to see the contrast to understand that there is an alternative to the old and tired, right? Even with being in a little bubble and then expanding, and then like with the food thing, right? Like, you have to be able to see the contrast to know that one exists, right, to begin with, and then from there you make a choice. But if there's never um, anything to compare it to, then, and if you don't do the work for it, then it's very easy to just stay stuck, like, in things that are not good for you. Right? Like, the world's very tired right now, and they believe that their limitations, like, start here. Like, that's the ceiling for everyone is right here, right? So they need to be able to see that no, like, that's where you think it is, right? But observe the contrast, right? Like, human potential, you are very capable of much greater. It's just no one has actually done the work and poured their focus into that uh, to make it visible to anyone else, right? So that's really all it is. People just need to see that there is something different. And then you have to do the work. You have to want to do the work for it, right? Do I think that this is just specific to, like, me? I think we're guided to what we work for, what we want, what we focus on, right? Like, and first you need the vision. Then you need to, like, take the steps toward the vision, right? And then the results will speak for themselves. And it depends on what you want, right? Like my wants are not in the material, right? So I don't have the material, right? I have something else, right? I have what I work for. So it's as simple as that, but the journey is rough, yeah. It's rough. It's rough to like deviate from the old and tired, right? It's not tired and true. It's old and tired, right? And people are tired. So this is the time that we're in. What an amazing time, yeah. Then again, I guess it depends on what perspective you're viewing anything from, yeah. But no matter what, it all comes down to a choice. So I hope that in some way these little chats help. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do now. Maybe piddle. Maybe see what's happening with everyone else's reality, right? First, I take care of my own reality, my own thoughts, my own whatever, through my own design of my own experiences and my own what is in my immediate environment, right? Usually the bulk of that's going to be from your work, right? So whatever's happening like in my work environment, whatever happens whenever I go to the store, conversation I might overhear, or like this morning with the coffee mug and the um, little old lady like in her bracelet and all of that, right? Like you need to start with your focus there first. What is this teaching me? It's like a tailored, everyone gets like tailored lessons to where they are on their path, right? Then, after you take care of that, you can look at what everyone else's reality is, right? And then pull from that what is useful for you, right? What is relevant? What can we learn from it, etc. Right? But that's not how the world looks at it. They want to completely detach from their own experiences, their own environments, their own lives, right? They want to disassociate from their own like whatever, and then put themselves like into the broader uh, multi realities going on all at once via the media or whatever, and then uh, have a say, right? An opinion, right? It's noise. It's noise because you can't have an opinion and you can't whatever that matters if you can't sort. Make sure your house is tended to before you go uh, speaking on anyone else's house. Yeah, is the the lesson there. Yeah, make sure your house is clean before you go throwing stones at anyone else's house. Yeah, so that means take care of your experiences in your environment. Make sure all of your things are in order first, and then once you do that, you can look at the broader view and then have something of importance to offer, right? That's how that works. There's no cutting corners. There's no way around it. There's not. right? Because chances are, if you're not taking care of your own house, your perception is skewed. It's not in order. It doesn't matter. It is noise, it is conflict, it is perpetuation of problems, right? There's a whole lot of this. This is where having a TV, not a good idea. Yeah. Oh, that was something I did want to touch on, right? So people will like watch TV and they'll read like a news story or they'll watch a movie and think that they've got the idea of how things really work. And they'll develop emotions from watching this TV show or hearing this, like, whatever. And then they think that they are qualified and understand the emotion behind someone who actually has experience, like in those situations. Like, let's take like abused children for instance, right? Like, they'll watch this on TV and develop their own little, like, little false feelings about it. uh, and then what that does is they'll come up against like an adult who may be struggling with something or whatever, and the first thing that they'll fucking do, because they have no actual experience and have no real idea of what it all involves, right? Uh, they'll say some sideways shit and talk to you like shit. Talk to someone that was abused whenever they were little, talk to them like shit, and then go rant about, like, no, that's so terrible, blah, blah, blah. You don't know terrible until you experience terrible, okay? You don't, right? Because those are the first ones to fucking say some sideways shit, right? In an area that they have no business speaking on, right? Facts, right? Like, people think that they know how court works because they watch, Law and Order or some fucking, like, uh, whatever, right? Go to school, learn it, and you'll see how wrong your conceptions of the process are, right? And a lot of people will get online and then they'll go argue, right? Or a lot of people will, like, come into contact with the law and then they think they know the law because they've watched TV or this and that. No, no, right? All right. Like, you don't just go in and you're hit with surprise evidence. No, no, the lawyers share all the information. They have to do disclosures with one another about everything. Everyone knows everything up front, right? Right. So there's a bunch of fake world going on the TV, and then there's like real world, and people cannot make as a distinguished difference, and it causes a conflict in their interactions with one another. Facts, right? Because I've experienced this, yeah, with people. So that's what I'm trying to say, is there's a lot of noise because of people not paying attention to their own experiences and what they can learn from that, right? And then being able to take that into the real world and then offer anything meaningful to others, right? There is a low uh, self awareness problem, right? Everyone is very low self awareness. Yeah. And then they think that they have proper perspective, perceptions, and opinions about real world things because they see something on the news or they read something or watch some TV show, right? Well, I would have, blah, blah. You don't know what you would have done. You don't know what you would have done until you are in those shoes, right? Because that's where the shit gets sticky, right? Right? facts. It's a lot more complicated whenever it's real world. A lot more complicated. Because you don't usually get time to think rationally, right? You don't get a chance to like pause and think about like X, Y, and Z. You don't, right? You have to work off of like instinct or whatever for the situation, right? You don't know what you would have done. I hate hearing that. I would have. You don't know what you would have, right? But I'm sure that the universe can show you uh, what you will or won't the moment it comes out of your mouth. Natural law is it just trumps everything. Yeah. It's a beautiful and amazing thing to watch. That's why I'm extra cautious. Yeah. That's why it's better to find like compassion and empathy instead of judgment, where we don't have actual experience, right? Because experience has a funny way of changing your approach and your judgment towards things. It does, right? Because most people should be able to reflect on, well, that was a very difficult time for me, and I da da da. But the hypocrites will run out and they'll run their mouths, right? About the exact same shit that they will fucking say the most vile things to you about. And then they get mad. It's like, you're mad because, well, you're triggered because you're over here stirring shit about, like, shit that you haven't healed yet. And that's why you're running your mouth. So I'm just going to be quiet and let you fucking run your mouth. Right? I'm just going to be quiet and let you run your mouth and get it all out. Get it all out, sweetie. Get it all out. Okay? And I'm just going to let the conversation out. I had that experience too. Right? And being self-aware lets you know that you are watching. You're watching someone unhealed be very upset. So the aware person says, I can see this for what it is, right? I'm not going to pour any salt in any wounds. We're not going to do this, right? Because the self-aware person says, I know my own situation. I know your situation was difficult, right? And we could pull hairs all day long, right? About the differences, yeah? But the self-aware person knows it's best to just let them speak, no matter how vile, right? Let them get it out. It's just emotion, right? And be done with it. Because unhealed people who haven't dealt with their things yet, right? And experiences that are very difficult, or trying, or something that may alter one's life, right? That is something that everyone has in common, yeah. We all have our like varying degrees of things that have impacted us, like left marks on us, like things that we have to like work through. Like that is the common thread. It is. So your level of awareness and maturity and growth will show in your response towards those things, right? If you react, then you've got work to do, right? It's when you can let them be and just understand that you're in two different places, right? And let them go their way and you go yours. Yeah. So this is a long video. This is almost an hour long. I'm hoping that there is something useful in here. It's a quiet evening, you know, for anyone who listens, who cares to listen, right? In a sea of noise and shit, like, there is hope in the void. Yeah. Hopefully, right? That's what I hope to, like, put out into the world, right? Like, there is a place of genuine authenticity. Yeah.